Hello, everybody. Welcome again to DevSecond Kenya session today. I hope you're having a great time from wherever you're watching us from. Otherwise, it's beautiful over here. We are DevSecond Kenya, one of the chapter of the global DevSecond community, which is an inclusive community that educates and enables developers in application security. And we are so pleased today to have Esther, who is a software engineer at TeamFlow, talk about Git Actions for Android development. But before we dive into that, let me just introduce myself quickly. I'm Elijah, and I'm one of the leader of the DevSecond Kenya chapter. And I'm actually the human working behind the scenes here to make sure that you have a smooth experience. And DevSecond is brought to you by Sneak, and our aim is to create a vendor-neutral space to share knowledge and best practices related to software security. So in case you have any feedback for us, sure, we'd really love to hear from you. You can just search DevSecond on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or even better, actually, on our Discord server, because even there you might find other people in the community, even the speaker themselves, and network ask questions and just network with them. It's so great to talk with other fellow engineers. So, but last but not least, once the session is over today, you'll be able to find it as well on the YouTube here, where it's being streamed, as well as on our website, devsecond.com, and you can share with friends, colleagues, and so we all learn together. All right, so that will be all from me. I'm gonna jump in right away and welcome and bring Esther in and allow her to take over. Welcome, Esther.
Hi, Elijah.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great and super grand, excited to learn a lot more today about some mysteries, but that I hope is gonna unveil to us tonight.
Not sure they're a mystery, but thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm gonna hand it over to you. Will you quickly introduce yourself to the community before we kick on?
Sure. So, hi guys. I'm Esther. I'm Esther Jangida. I'm a software engineer. I'm an Android developer. I'm currently working for TeamFlow, and I'm also based here in Rwanda. So I love coding, and yeah. So today we'll be sharing more about Git Actions, CI/CD, and pipelines. Yeah, that's
Great,
it.
wonderful. I know that you are just ready to kickstart with everything. So let me allow myself not to take much of your time. Will you just please share your screen so I bring it on stage and I leave the spot
Yeah,
for you?
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you able to see it?
Yes. Right. Good. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right. Thank
Guiding
you.
myself.
Okay. Thank you. So, hi guys. Hi again. So today we'll be talking about Git Actions for Android, simplifying development. So, if you have any question, feel free to ask it in the chat. Don't wait for the presentation to be done before you can ask a question. So, today we'll be talking about Git Actions. So, first of all, as an introduction, GitHub Actions is a powerful tool for streamlining development workflows. And this guide will basically show you how to set up any CI/CD for your project. So the first thing that you might ask yourself would be, what is CI/CD? CI stands for continuous integration, whereby CD stands for continuous deployment. So everything is, let's first go back for us to understand what is CI/CD for people who don't really get what it is. So in the Agile Manifesto, they have 12 principles, and one of the principle is that our highest priority in agile development is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. And so CI/CD is basically a way of automating some of the tools that we need for us to do a CI/CD and keep doing a continuous delivery of valuable software. And also in agile development, delivering value is continuously like a never-ending pizza party, right? So what is CI/CD? As I said, continuous integration is CI, and then continuous deployment CD, which is a process for automating software development workflows. It basically helps developers catch errors early and deploy changes quickly. So basically, when we're working, different teams and different developers have to work together for a product to be released. And we need CI for us to help us to automate the processes, the different processes that we have. For example, a developer might need to be working on a feature, and then you need to merge it to GitHub. And then first of all, you need to make a pull request, and then after making a pull request, then your feature can be merged. So that's where continuous integration comes in. It's going to help us to make sure that the components that you have built are all working as intended. For example, let's say that we're all working on a feature. So first of all, Git Actions are going to help us to build the project and make sure that nothing has broken. And right after, it's also going to help us with unit tests, because we've all been writing unit tests and we were all working on one project. So building unit tests and making sure that everything is running will also help us with the delivery. And then lastly, it's also going to help us while we want to generate artifacts. Let's say that in Android, you want to generate an APK. So it's also going to help us automate that process. So continuous deployment comes in where continuous integration ends, which is basically the process of deploying the product that you have, deploying agent staging, production, or even the testing environment. So you might ask yourself, what is a workflow? Hmm? So a workflow is basically uh, it's there are steps that we have. It's a set of jobs and a set of steps that you need to do in for you to be able to run a pipeline. We're also going to learn what a pipeline is, right? So CI/CD, as I have talked about it, it's the process of regularly merging code and then also the running tests that have been written by developers, while also building release versions. And this is also going to help us when we want to release a version, want to release a certain artifact, and also helping us with delivering the software to customers. So I usually think of it as baking and delivering cookies like nonstop, because you keep working, and refining, making sure that the customer gets the product that was intended. So here comes Git Actions. So Git Actions is a platform for automation of the workflows, for automation workflows. The benefits are automate testing. It's going to automate the testing, automating the run, the unit tests, build and deployment. It's going to help us while building an APK and then deploying it to either Firebase or Play Store. And it also integrates seamlessly with GitHub, which is also a bonus point for us. So as I mentioned it, what is a workflow? So because workflows are what we use in Git Actions. So a workflow is a sequence of jobs that can run either in series or in parallel, right? So a job usually contains more than one step, where each step is a self-contained function. As you can see, we have the code on this picture. We have the code, a developer commit, and then right after committing and making it sure everything is there, you can build. And then after building, you run the unit tests and integration tests. And then right after the CI pipeline has executed, that's when you have the CD pipeline. And with the CD pipeline, that's when you can review and then integrate to staging and production. So you might be asking yourself that the benefits of testing your code. So one of the key benefits of CI is automated testing. With GitHub Actions, you can easily run tests on your code every time you push changes to your repository. And building and deploying your code, once your code has passed tests, you can use GitHub Actions to build and deploy your code. This can be done automatically or even triggered manually, as we're going to see it. And setting up GitHub Actions, to set up GitHub Actions, you need to create a workflow file in your repository. You can use a YAML file to define steps in your workflow. So before we start with the practical parts, again, if there is any question, feel free to reach out, like chat in the chat, and then text your question. So I'll also forgot to mention that I have a Medium accounts. I have also this article here, continuous delivery for Android using GitHub. Feel free to go and check it out, and also follow me there. So as I was saying, the first thing that you have to do while creating a workflow is to create this. You need to create a .github package, and then after that, then you can also create another sub. If you want, you can either go on and create a YAML file directly, but it's for the best practices. It's better that you group each YAML file and different YAML files in a directory, right? So the first thing that you do, you create a .github package, and then after you also create another package workflows. And then after this, you can create a YAML file. Here in our case, we're going to create a check and deploy.yaml. And then all the processes are always written in YAML, which is a format often used in setup files. Um, Also, something that I forgot to mention here, correct spacing is very crucial in YAML. So you need to stick to the spacing shown in the guide to ensure that your processes function correctly, right? So first of all, there are two ways you can run different tests in your project. We have this run test inside Android Studio, and then we also have this Gradle test, the Gradle W test, which is the one we're going to use. As when you're writing pipelines, you need to use these different commands in command line that you use for you to be able to run either the test, unit test, integration test, or whatever command you need to run. So let's go step by step. Um, let's first open Android Studio. So I hope you can all see this project. So first of all, this is like a small project, which is a code. It's a code app. We're going to be using this one. So okay, before we can start with the practical session, I wanted to say that we are not going to go through the app and then like code it from scratch, but this is available on my GitHub. So if you want, you can check it out and then clone it and then use it, or even like try to see if you can or do the same thing. So this is a code app, which is basically done using Android. We use Kotlin here. It has different source files. It has the main, Java. It has dependency injection. It has the data. We also have RomDB. RomDB has a repository class. Okay, it's a very basic. It's a very basic app. So we did not really focus on everything related to coding this, but it's going to help us with the CI/CD, right? And it's also built using Jetpack Compose. So let's say that you have already, okay, first of all, the pipelines are the first step that you need to do. So firstly, the first thing that you need to do, you come here, you click on the project, and then as you can see, this is already defined. You click here on the project, you right click, new, and then here you create a directory. And then right after creating a directory, you need to start with .github. This is not going to allow us to do it since it's already defined, but you come here, .github, and then it's there, it's created. And then after creating this, you always make sure that you never forget this dot, because if you forget it, it's not going to recognize the YAML files inside it. So as you can see, I've also created this workflows package, and then I have two YAML files, right? I have this check and deploy, and then Play Store workflow. So as I said, as I mentioned it, you can create as many YAML files you want, as many pipelines as you want. And as I have also mentioned it, a workflow can either run in series or in parallel. So depending on what you want and what you intend to do, both of these can work, right? So you come here, new file. Let's create another one. Check and check and deploy two, two like this. Oh no, no, sorry. So as you can see, this is not going to recognize it as a file, as a YAML file. So what you need to do, you need to call it, you need to add this extension .yml, because if you don't add it that way, then it's not going to recognize what you want to do, right? Okay, so check and deploy the YAML have already been created, and as you can see, everything is well aligned because the spaces really matter when you're creating a YAML file. So you first start with the name, has test and deploy, and then here that's when you start defining what you want when this YAML file is going to be executed. So when is it going to be executed in this case? So it's on push tags, which means that you first start with this on, which means that all the two are the conditions for this YAML file to be executed. So in this case, it's on push. If you push anything with this v tag, as you know, when you want to release, you always need to add a version and the release tag. So this basically means that every time when you want to push with this tag that starts with v, this YAML file is going to be executed. Second scenario where this is going to be executed is on pull request. Obviously, you might need to do pull requests, and before you can do a pull request, then you need to check if the quality is okay, if the unit tests are running, and if the integration tests are also running. So you every time there is a pull request to this branch main, the branches are specified here. In this case, it's main. Main is our branch. It's like master branch here. So every time there is a pull request here, then we start with the jobs. As I have stated, a workflow is a set of jobs. So what is a job? A job is basically it just um, a step and also like something that has to be executed. As I said it, you can either run unit test or Android test for you to make sure everything is running. So these are the jobs. The first job that you have here is unit test. And the next thing that you specify is which operating system is going to run on. And here in our case, it's going to run on Ubuntu latest. And then you have different steps. So first of all, this is going to be used for checking out the repository. And then we have the name, which is setup JTK. And then we have a distribution. This is Java distribution, Java version 11. And the name is unit test. And as I mentioned it, this is the command that's going to be run for this YAML, for this particular job to be executed, right? So depending on what you have defined, this can be test, this can be assembly test, this can be different depending on the flavor. But since here I only have this one flavor debug, so it's going to be test debug unit test. So the second job here is Android test, which is basically going to be running on this Mac OS 12. It uses this v3 name. The name here is setup JDK, the distribution, and then the name is instrumented test. It uses an emulator. So I want to add something before I can proceed. Sometimes Android tests are going to fail, not because they're not working, not because your tests are wrong, but sometimes it takes a while for the pipeline to run an emulator. As you can see, we have this Android emulator runner here. So sometimes it takes a while for it to load, and it can even time out before it can run, which is going to make the pipeline to fail. So that's why sometimes you might also, like, if it fails, you go and check and see what's wrong. We're going to see it, how to check all the errors. So okay, these are Android tests. We also have the build. As I have mentioned it, we also need to build, because in case you've been working with different people, then you need to build and make sure that whatever I have built is not going to break other people's changes, right? So for this build to work, you need needs. You need to add these needs. So for you to build, first of all, you need the unit test and Android test to pass, right? So this basically means that this build is only going to be executed if the unit test and Android tests are complete and are running, right? And this is running on Ubuntu latest. It has name. It uses this for checking out the repository, and then this is the same steps with the one we went through here. The name here, we're going to generate a release APK, right? So before you can, because continuous deployment is also delivering a product to customers, right? But before you can deliver it to the customers, we have a QA team. And the most common way to do testing in Android is by using Firebase app distribution, which is going to help us with the QA team, right? So you need to generate an APK, and right after generating an APK, then you would also need to submit it to Firebase. So with Git Actions, this is basically like it's so easy for you to do it that you don't even need to do it manually, because pipelines are going to to do it for you at a very, very, very low cost. So the name is generate release APK, and then this is what we run. We run the assembly release. This is the name. Sign APK uses this release version. And then for you to sign the APK, first of all, you need one thing. First thing first, you need to build it, right? So as you can see in this toolbar that we have here, you come here to build, and then you select generate signed APK. And then you can either select Android app bundle or APK depending on what you want. And then right here, the next step is going to be generating a key store. So this key store is what's going to allow your app to be recognized on the Play Store as a unique app, right? So another thing I need to mention before I can proceed, you absolutely need to keep this key store somewhere where you're going to be, somewhere you're sure about, and somewhere you're not going to lose it. Because if you lose it, then you might not even be able to upload your app again to Play Store. So this is very key. Once you generate it, make sure that you save it somewhere you're not going to lose it, right? So in case you already have it, choose as existing, and then in case you don't, come here, you create new, right? So here you can select where you want it to be. Uh, let's save it here in the document. Code key. Let's call it code key, right? So it's going to be stored here. You need to have a meaning password, and then I'll add this password. I confirm. And then you also need to add this one. You need to add this one. And then you add the names. Esther, Rel, Simplo. This does not really matter. So then you click on OK, right? So me, I love remembering my password, because I think that this is the most secured way to go about it. So you go next, and then you create a debug, and then you let Gradle run, and then deploys it. So why am I saying this? Because as you saw it, we have defined the signing key, right? We have this alias name, we have the key store password and the key password. So we need to add it here. But since it's not very secured for us to add it directly here, it's not a good practice to put the keys here directly in the YAML files. Then we're just going to create these secret keys inside GitHub, right? So we have already created the key, and this is generating a release version and a release AAB bundle for us. As you can see, has already been generated, right? And as you can see, you have this app debug here. So the next thing is, where are we going to save these keys? Since we said that it's not a good practice to save it locally, so what we need to do is you come here, GitHub, we first here, we're in the code, this has already been pushed. You come here to settings, you come down here, secrets and variables, and then you have actions. You come here, you click on actions, right? So this is what's going to help us store the keys and what's going to help us with managing all the keys that we have right now. So we here, the first thing that you do is you come here, you click on new repository. Okay, because I already have this already declared here. I have the alias declared, Firebase app ID, Firebase token. So if you want to create a new one, you come here, you click on new repository secret, the secret's name, and then you add your key, right? And then after adding your key, every time you need it, you just come here, you do secrets dot signing key, the name of the key that you have declared, which is basically it, right? And then as you can see, this has already been generated. We have this release APK, which is also signed. And then the last job that we need to execute here is deploy Firebase, right? Because as I said it, you need to deploy it to the users, to the QA team, for you to be for them to test it before it can be deployed to production, right? So as I mentioned it, you need the build to be succeeded, because if you can generate the APK, then you cannot submit it to Firebase. And it also runs on Ubuntu. It uses this release APK, and then the name unzip downloaded APK, and then it uploads it to the Firebase app distribution. First need to unzip, and then after you submit to Firebase app distribution. So we have this Firebase app ID, Firebase token. I'm also going to go through how to generate these ones. So let's go to, let's say that the build has succeeded and then you want to deploy to Firebase. So we have different steps for this one. First thing first, you have a console. Where's my console? Okay, we have this console. We have these RW codes. This is already created, but in case you don't know how to, there is a very straightforward documentation on Google that shows how to do it very quickly. So you come here, settings, and then project settings, going to bring this, general, cloud messaging, integration, service account, data privacy, right? And then as you can see, you come down here and you can get the app ID, right? So this is what's going to be helping us with, this is what we need here. So we need the Firebase app ID. I saw, which is this, and then we also need Firebase token. So for you to, which is going to be used Firebase login. You basically need to Firebase login. You're going to write this Firebase login, and then after Firebase login, you can see Firebase login, and then right after you can be redirected to the Firebase. Yes, allow Firebase to collect CLI and emulator. Yes, and then it's going to redirect you here. And then after redirecting you here, you can, okay, Firebase CLI login successful, which is going to, yes, as you can see, has been successfully, um, yes, as you can see, it's been successful, right? So you get the key from this. Then right after getting the key, then you can add it as a Firebase token. So, okay, so right after this, the next thing that you have to do is here everything has been saved. So after everything has been saved here in environment secrets, you can come back here. Firebase app ID set, Firebase token is set, and then you can push your code to GitHub, right? So right after pushing your code on GitHub, let's open it. This is it, right? So we have this on GitHub. I don't know if you have ever noticed, but you have this tab, Actions. Here, that's where you can see all the pipelines that have been running, right? So you have this check pipelines, which is a branch that I have created earlier. And then when you push, and right after doing a pull request, as you can see, I have this added a new key store. And then we have these checks. You come here, you see the checks, and then right after you can see that everything has been successful. We have the unit test, Android test, build, and then deploy to Firebase that have worked, right? So let's go through it. So as I mentioned, the unit test and Android test are the ones to run first. And then after it has been successful, you run this build will be executed, and then after that it's going to be deployed to Firebase, right? So if this fails, then it's not going to allow you to merge any pull request to the main branch or master branch, right? So you basically need to pass, and yeah, you basically need to pass and this checklist for you to be able to merge a pull request, right? So as I have mentioned it, as you see, this has failed. Wanted to merge a pull request to main, and it failed because the Play Store pipeline was not working properly, right? So this is going to be prevented for you to merge it, because then the pull request wouldn't be successful, right? So what's going to happen every time you run this deploy to, okay, this is Play Store example, and then test and deploy. Every time this is going to be run, let me click here, you're going to see logs. You can see logs. You can even rerun it if at it by any need. If you need it, you can rerun it, right? So this is basically it for when you want to deploy to Firebase. So every time after this runs, you come here, app distribution. You click here to app distribution, and then as you can see, we have different releases, right? We have testers and groups. You can here come and add different testers. You can also invite people. You can, yeah, let me change it. This is the right one. And so Firebase can basically allow you to add two different apps to one app. So you can add two different packages to one app, right? So every time you're going to create something, Uh, we have this test lab, we have app distribution. You can add testers here. You can add testers to email, invite links, and then if there is any release, then you're going to see on the list right away. So it basically means that right after this is going to be deployed, all the testers you have added to this testers group are also going to be notified that there is a change and that there might be they might need to test something. So right after notifying them, they're going to get the APK and then test it, right? So this is how the QA team will be testing, right? So this was the first YAML file. So here we have a second one, Play Store workflow. Let's say that the QA team has already tested and it's that it's working fine. The next thing is going to be release it on production. You need to release it to production. You need to release it to Play Store, right? So what happens then? So you need to create another one and then on push to this branch, which is the main branch. We have different jobs. The first one is this. You first generate a release APK. Of course, it has to build. You need to generate a release APK, which are the same exact steps with the one we did for checking and deploying to Firebase. And then right after this, then you need to deploy to Play Store. Obviously, it needs the build to be succeeded before you can deploy it. It has different steps. It has this, and there is something that I forgot to mention. Let me say it right now. So um, before you can, okay, let me show it here. This signing key, you need this signing key for you to be able to generate an APK, right? And this is the command that you use. You use OpenSSL base 64 because you need to encode it, and then you need to get it with this extension for you to be able to generate your key. It looks like something like this. Okay, I don't have it right now. But you basically need to run this command. You need to first add the key, the generated key store. This is the path to the generated key store. And then you also need to add like the name of what you expect as a signing key. And then when this is generated, then you click on it and then you can get the key, right? Okay, let's go back to our workflow. So for you to be able to publish to Play Store, you need two things. First thing, you need display service account JSON, which is also going to be added where? Here. You settings, secrets, actions, here. Play service account JSON. So you need a Play service account JSON that's going to be generated through Play Store. And then you also need the APK that you have generated, the APK that was generated. So these are the only two things that you need for you to be able to deploy to Play Store, right? So this is basically going to be it. We're going to run unit tests and make sure everything is running. And then right after running the test, you build. After running the build and making sure the build is not broken, you publish it to the QA team on Firebase. And then after publishing to Firebase, the QA team is going to test, make sure everything is running correctly. And then after approving the request, then that's when this is going to be this Play Store workflow is going to be executed only when we deploy to the main branch, right? So this is only going to be deployed on the main branch. And so we're going to deploy to the users, to the production, right? So and then right after to being declared sent to production, then we can make sure that the customer has the product, and at least we can make sure that everything, we don't have anything that is broken, and at least with the requirements that the customer had. So this is basically it. So these are the steps. There are also of course, other things that you can do and with different environments that you have, but this was the basic that we can do with CI/CD. So I have this article on Medium. You can check it out. And if you have any question, feel free to reach out to me and text. And so let me go back to the slide. Where is the slide? Okay, here. So we had a small practice, and yeah, this is the practice that I had. So yeah, I think that's it. So if you have any question, thank you again for this presentation. If you have any question, feel free to ask so that we can discuss. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Esther. As you're just going on with the presentation, there's one thing that came to my mind,
Mm-hmm,
especially when you spoke about YAML. There is
mm-hmm,
this saying that goes all over the place, all over the internet, and people
mm-hmm,
say that
mm-hmm,
Java developers are the reason for YAML, especially because of the spacing. What do you say
mm.
about that? I mean,
Um, I think we all need to follow the best practices, right?
mhm.
So that's what YAML wants. That's what we do. So I basically think that sometimes you just need to go with the best practices that they have. And YAML files are also like very, very powerful because you can use it as, by the way, I didn't mention it, but you also have Fastlane. You can use Fastlane as another automation tool. And you can also still use the YAML files. So YAML files are, you can use it different so many ways, and I guess that's why the spaces are there to make sure that we all do what they want us to do.
So you're like Yamato. Uh,
Yes.
oh, nice, nice. So just something else. Like in this era of AI, how do you
Hmm.
think AI could help us streamline our development?
Okay, good question. So first of all, I think as we all know, we have GitHub Copilot, which is a very, very useful tool that I also use. We have GitHub
Sure.
Actions, and it helps you with it's not only autocomplete because most of developers they love saying that you keep clicking tab and it generates the code. But I also think I see AI as a good way for us to write very, very good quality code, right? So I feel like AI is going to help us more with that on that side to make sure that you write best practices and that follow very, very high quality standards. And with CI/CD, I think it's also going to be a plus for us since it's also going to be helping us writing very good quality code and also helping us with the best practices.
Absolutely. But then there is this thought that AI codes or AI generated code is not so
Mhm,
secure. So
mhm.
what could be like the approaches that you would suggest, especially after having a generated code to take into consideration? Is there any tool in the industry that will help us actually know what risk we can have with AI generated codes or just prevent any
Mm,
risk, potential risk that might happen?
mm. So again, I think first of all, AI is not there. AI is not there for us to be lazy, right? So what I think is first of all, before you can generate anything, you need to make sure that you understand what you're doing. You understand the best practices. You understand what you're going to sacrifice with building whatever you want to build. And sometimes you might also need to read and do research about you want the AI to generate for you. And then after the AI can generate what you want, then you also need to check, is it what I intended to do? Is it like more of going to break anything? Is it going to follow the best practices? And right after that, that's when you can be like, okay, let me add this code because I know that they're secured and they're going to do what I intended to do. So I think we should use it very wisely and not make sure that it breaks anything because even security wise, um, I also think it's kind of dangerous.
Oh, great. So, suppose that's a crazy scenario. My
Mm-hmm.
application key is leaked as
Mm-hmm.
as we were
Sorry, can
watching.
you come again?
Yeah, as we were watching the whole flow. So in the YAML file, there are a lot of secret keys that we have in there. So
Mm-hmm.
let's suppose just my key is leaked for some reasons. Is there any step that I can take into consideration in order to maybe make
Mm-hmm.
sure I don't give access to my application? Because I saw that there is actually this key which you said
Mm-hmm.
is an identifier for my application on the store. So and I'm supposed to keep it private because it identify my app. So
Mm-hmm.
if I happen to have that key leaked, what are the risks that can come with it?
Okay, good questions. As I have mentioned it, even in the code, uh, keys are very important because keys are what's going to allow people to have access to your data. They're going to have, in even some cases, it's going to have to make people access very, 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 very important data in your app, even in backend or even inside your app, right? So keys are very important. So the first thing that you need to do security wise, make sure that you don't save your key somewhere just as I even showed you in the code here, I could have just come here and add the secret code here, the secret key. I could have just come here and added the key store password and it would have worked. But then what if someone has access on this and he can see the key store, you know? And as also we know there is reverse engineering. With reverse engineering, it's very easy because if with a key you can access whatever you want. So the best secured way is to make sure that it's stored somewhere here in GitHub as action secrets, and even GitHub himself itself, right? As you can see, when you click on
Oh yeah.
edit here, first of all with the keys, as you can see, you don't see the keys. It just tells you Firebase token, but you can't see the key, right? So
Mhm.
even them, they even hide it from our eyes. So even when you click here on edit, you won't see it. Just going to edit, but they won't tell you the previous key that you had. So this is their way of making sure that everything is secured. So that's why I trust GitHub to have my keys because I know that they have a better security and they're going to make sure it's not going to be leaked anywhere, right? So I would recommend to put the keys here, or if it's not here, put it somewhere else where you're sure that it's not going to be leaked or it's not going to be used by others.
Oh, great. So that junior developer, or I don't know how I can call myself, who once happened to
Mm-hmm.
hard code my keys in the YAML file. So
Okay.
and what can I do? What can I do? Especially my repository is public in that case. And
Like
yeah,
don't.
is there any way I can reverse maybe, or I don't know.
So the
What's the
only
worst?
thing that I can um so there is this, I don't know if you heard of it, but I don't know if it was Microsoft. I don't know if I'm mistaken, but someone leaked the key. So it was pushed. It was unintentionally pushed to the public repository that they have. So a junior developer, maybe it wasn't even a junior developer, I don't know, but he managed to push the keys to the public repository, which was okay. Was already it was removed like after a few minutes, but people have already noticed that, and it has caused people to go and like try to see to fetch data and do whatever they wanted with their APIs, right?
Oh yeah.
So mistakes are there. Sometimes you can make a mistake and then push it, but the I think what's going to be more secure in that case, it's you changing the keys. The first thing that you need to do is make sure that you drop the keys and then generate others, and then make sure that you use other keys, because there is always a way of generating it. Go there and update it, and make sure that you don't use the key that have leaked, right? So that's what I
Mhm.
would like this.
Oh, great. Super great. That's actually all the question I had. I didn't have much from the comments from the audience, but I
Mm-hmm,
believe this was so insightful for them as well as it was to me. And
mm-hmm,
I I don't know, just gonna say thanks to Esther because now I have a little bit of a picture of what Android development looks like. This is actually my first experience with this, so I'm pretty sure for
okay.
someone else behind there, it's as well
Mm,
their first time checking out what
mm,
Android dev looks like.
mm,
So yeah,
mm.
thanks so much for all the sharing, all the insights you actually shared with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. My names are Esther Carrer Rangira, as it's mentioned here, and also have a Medium account. Feel free to also follow me there. And thank you, Eliza, for having me tonight.
Oh yes, it's a pleasure. So to everybody who joined us today, this is actually the end of the session. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being with us all this while. We are DevSecon Kenya, and we have uh, daily, no, not really daily, but monthly virtual event here, streamed here on YouTube. So if you want to be our next speaker, of course, it's open to everybody. You just go to devsecon.com and you'll find all the details there. Submit your topics, and we will make sure we contact you back. So this has been Elijah and Esther on DevSecon Kenya. Thank you and have a great rest for the day
Thank
or
you.
the night, whatever it is. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.